Welcome back to the shop, everyone. This week's video takes place in 2023, week 43, October 23rd to October 29th, and we are going to start by opening up some new diff parts. So the parts that we're looking at here are new differential yokes from Bear's Performance, and the reason why I'm switching over the yoke is I'm also ordering my drive shaft from Bear's Performance, and they don't have the flange that mates to the 8.8 flange in 1350 U joints, so it's easy enough to swap this over, so I figured what the hell, why not? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my new 8.8 axle nut, just kind of check and see if it'll fit in the yoke, and it looks like it'll fit. It seems like it's a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to do a little bit of comparing from the one that's on the car to the new one and see if there's any size differences. Like, it just, I don't know, in my mind this nut just feels small. So best way to compare is just grab calipers, and so grab a few dimensions and then measure, and it does seem like it's smaller, but the actual, thread and the head are all the same, so I'm not too worried about it. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking through my tools to see if I have a 3-jaw puller so that I can actually get the old flange off of the pinion. And I don't have a 3-jaw puller. So I'm just taking a quick measurements of the holes, and I'm gonna see if this old steering wheel puller that I have will work, if I can make it work. And it's not quite big enough, but I think it's close enough I can probably make it work. So in order to do this, I forget what size bolts are on those flanges, but I think a 3/8 bolts in reasonably okay. I feel like they're metric threads, but I don't remember. 7/16 bolts thread in reasonably okay, but it's not great. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some 3/8 bolts. I'm going to go through the puller and then through the flange to the back, so it's just kind of like the bolt will just go past the threads, and then I can bolt to the back and pull it out. So with that nut off, we can get the puller set up. So put it on, put a bolt all the way through the threads. Just, I kind of have to work it by a little bit, but for the most part it just kind of pushes right past. Get a little taut, put a couple nuts on the back, and then I can use a wrench to get this off. And I'm just going to do a quick guesstimate here on what size I think it is. So I'm like, I think it's 19 or 18. So grab the 19 mil wrench, and yep, sure enough, 19 mil it is. And this plan works. This flange just pulls right off. Since we got the old one off, let's, put the new one on, and it just slides right on. I'm actually quite surprised at how easily it went in there. So what I'm going to do is come up to the bench, and I'm going to take some measurements and just, make sure that the splines are roughly the same size. And I take a bunch of measurements because it's kind of hard to get an accurate, like, straight across measurement, just because of how the splines are. So I eventually get a good way. I mark it. I'm like, okay, let's just measure from this spline to this spline. Let's get it, and then get a number, and then do the same thing on the other one. Get a number. Although I stupidly don't mark it, I just make sure it's right, and then it's, they're so close. They're super close, and I end up deciding, yeah, it's close. It's good enough. So that, we're just going to go ahead through, I'm actually just checking like the old flange to see like how loose and tight it is versus the new one. yep, I figure it's good enough. So put it on there, put a new nut on there, and just torque it down with the impact. I'm not worried about setting preload because I use a Raytech solid spacer in this. So I set up preload a long time ago. I just need to tighten the nut and I can send it and hopefully not blow it up. So now that I have that done, I'm going to quickly measure so that I can send my measurements off to Bears Performance and get them to fab me up a drive shaft. So what I'm doing is I don't know why I'm measuring the yoke. That doesn't really matter. It's 1350 U joints. I already know that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measurement from the transmission output face to the center point of the U joint, or just the yoke face. And so that's what we're going to do now. And if I recall correctly, I was 45 on the dot. All right, now that we have the drive shaft measured, there's nothing I can do. I just gotta wait for them to get that done. But what I can do is all of those fuel lines that were hanging down underneath the car, I can finally get off my lazy ass and actually mount them to the car. I don't know why I didn't do this a long time ago. There have been several times where I've been under there and I just kind of got caught on them. Like, I should have done this a long time ago. So let's, stop being lazy and just do it. So the plan for this is I start out and I'm just going to do a single mount to one of the fuel lines to that crossbar that goes from the through floor subframe connectors to the outside of the chassis. My cage bolts to the top of that beam essentially. So I'm going to start out by putting a single clip or mount on just one of the lines and then to that bar, and we're going to see how it goes from there. But the plan is I put the first one on that outrigger, and then I'm going to do a solid mount to the body every 12 inches and then do one of those black just hose clamps every 6 inches. So it's going to go mount to the body, just a floating clamp, mount to the body, floating clamp, mount to the body, etc. And so the process is get the clamp on there, get the fuel lines where I want it on that outrigger, drill the hole, tap the hole to 1032, put the bolt in. So now that I've got that one hose mounted, I'm not liking how floppy the second one is. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very quickly just measure out the 12 and mark out the 12 inches, because that's where I'm going to mount the next holes. And before I go any further, I'm going to swap that out to a double clamp. So it's going to have the clamps on both lines, so they're both solid. It's not going to move, not going to flop around. I should have just done this in the first place. It would have been smarter. But you live and you learn. So in this area, I need to transition from the outside of that frame rail to the inside of the frame rail in the back. So there's this little bung here. I'm just going to punch that out and get it out of the way because it's right where I want to put a clip. And what I'll do is I'll eventually weld that up. You know, that hole in the floor is not a big deal. And this is just going to kind of nicely, easily transition over to the inside frame rail. And then from there, I can mount it high up on the inside frame rail, and that'll take it to the back of the car. So I'm just going to let you watch the rest of this and enjoy. Okay, with us buttoning up that last little bit, that is all the time we have for today. So as always, if you've stuck around this long, I'd like to thank you for viewing, and we'll catch you in the next one.